Well, it's not what I describe. It is unprecedented levels of supply workers. I mean, 40% within the care agency and 30% within the elderly residential services area. I mean, that's a huge, huge amount. And that could be the tip of the iceberg because, of course, in fairness to Minister Costa, he provides me with the figures. But some of the other government ministers, when I ask the same question in relation to other government departments and authorities and agencies, I don't get an answer. I mean, there are two aspects to this. One is the labour aspect. And we know, because we get a lot of complaints within the GSD, that people are being exploited. They're being paid minimum wage, whilst the recruitment consultants are then paid a balance by the government. And what I'd like to see is more of the money earned by these individuals going into their pockets, into the pockets of workers, rather than lining the pockets of recruitment agencies and consultants. The second issue is, of course, a continuity of care issue. Because if you have a high turnover of staff, that is bound to have an impact on the services that the care agency and the elderly residential services in particular provide. I spent 6-7 years telling the government that it was spending too much money. And what we have seen after the 2015 election, which of course the GSLP won very handsomely, but it spent an awful lot of money to keep an awful lot of people very happy, was that it couldn't be sustained. So now we are seeing, in the introduction, for example, of efficiency measures, a reining in by the government of some of that expenditure. But what you
Isn't that what you wanted?
No, hang on a minute. What you can't do is have a situation where you have large parts of the public service being employed like this on a temporary basis with high turnover of staff and with workers on very poor conditions and being exploited.
Well, you mentioned recruitment companies and agencies, and there have been accusations that people are being asked to cover real jobs under the guise of training, but they're actually not getting any training.
Well, yes, I mean, again, that is an issue that we have been banging on about for a long time. And there are a number of aspects to that. One is, what is the quality of training that people are actually getting? Because what you can have is a lot of trainees filling jobs for the sake of getting people off the unemployment list. That in the long term will do nothing to prepare those individuals for society and for them to go out and to earn a living for themselves and also for their families. And the training aspect is tremendously important. I think that also there is an exploitative issue there in itself, in that what you should not have is trainees basically occupying jobs on a permanent basis just to keep downward pressure in terms of wages. But we don't have a realistic, a full picture, I should say, not realistic, a full picture of what is happening in that area, because again, the government refuses to provide us with the information in Parliament when we ask the questions. Indeed, in relation to vacancies, I mean, let me give you an example. In relation to vacancies, a member of Parliament asked about how many vacancies are there within the civil service, and the government provided a list of vacancies. I asked how many vacancies are there in the public service, and I was told none. And it's those kind of shenanigans that in the way that the government is answering questions in Parliament, that of course does not allow the opposition to do its job. And at the end of the day, the government has got to realise that we live in a democracy. That's what Gibraltar is, it's a democracy. And our role is to hold the government to account, and they shouldn't hide from being held to account. Because if they're doing things properly, then they should not be afraid of light shining on what the government is doing. They should just defend it, and that's it.